Yosemite is a crown jewel of the national park system. Millions of visitors arrive here every year, drawn to the sublime beauty of its granite cliffs and high country wilderness. For most, it is a place of wonder, but for others, it has become a place of profound mystery. This list represents 34 individuals, 34 documented cases where an outdoor enthusiast, a tourist, or an experienced hiker simply vanished. Each name is a life interrupted, a family left without answers. F.P. Shepard, Frank Kohnman, Godfrey Wondrosek, Norris Parent, Emerson Holt, William Dickinson, Malcolm McClintock, Lewis Miller, Walter Gordon, Orvar von Loss, Kenneth Klein, Tom Opperman, Nelson Paisley, Christine Fuentes, Jerome Oldages, Stephen Brown, Randy Friedman, Dirkran Knajian, Lyndon Moore, Fred Comstock, Jeff Estes, Susan Shanton, Stacey Aris, John Doe, Timothy Barnes, Donald Buchanan, David Morrison, Kieran Burke, Ruth Ann Ruppert, Watler Reinhardt, Michael Feisery, George Penka, Peter Jackson, Joel Thomason. The scale of this cluster is unsettling. Some disappeared from heavily trafficked areas, others vanished deep in the backcountry, but all share a common outcome. They entered the park and they never came home. As the official record notes, the park is beautiful, but it can also be unforgiving. These are the people who vanished without a trace. The Grand Canyon is vast, ancient, and indifferent. It is a landscape defined by extreme scale, where the depth of the earth and the height of the walls create a claustrophobic sense of isolation even under an open sky. To stand on the rim is to look into a geological abyss. To descend into it is to leave the known world behind. For most, it is a place of geologic wonder. But there are those who have walked into this labyrinth and never walked out. The list of the missing here is a reminder of how quickly the environment can turn hostile. Jonghyun Won, Floyd E. Roberts III, Morgan Heimer, Drake Kramer, Adam Clayton, Lyle Jones, Glenn Hyde, Bessie Hyde, James Jim Gibbs. Some were seeking adventure, others were simply exploring the trails. They arrived with plans and expectations, but the canyon has a way of erasing tracks and silencing distress. Whether through the treacherous river, the blinding sun, or the sheer, unforgiving verticality of the terrain, these individuals became part of the landscape itself. The canyon hides its secrets well. When someone vanishes here, the search often yields nothing but questions. We are left only with the silence of the stone and the lingering, unanswered question, what really happened? The Pine Barrens of New Jersey are deceptive. Unlike the dramatic peaks of the West, this is a landscape of unrelenting sameness, a dense, sprawling maze of scrub oak and pine that seems to stretch into infinity. Here, the danger is not a vertical drop or a raging river, but the absolute loss of orientation. It is often called the flat void. In a forest where every mile looks like the last, the lack of elevation erases the horizon, and the monotony of the scenery can turn a simple, linear walk into a disorienting, fatal spiral. The records tell a stark story of those who were consumed by this uniformity. Fred Mormon, John Jack Elliott, Willard Bud Tilton. And beyond these names, the park records hint at even more, estimated cases that remain anonymous, swallowed by the brush. In the Barrens, the forest acts as a mirror. There are no landmarks to track your path and no high points to regain your bearing. For those who lose their way, the transition from being a visitor to being lost is often instantaneous. The woods are quiet, the landscape is repetitive, and once the trail is gone, the void closes in. What remains is only the stillness of the trees and the haunting reality that in the flat void, the forest keeps what it takes. Some disappearances leave behind a trail of physical evidence so bizarre that it defies rational explanation. The case of Aaron Hedges, who vanished in Montana's Crazy Mountains in September 2014, remains one of the most unsettling examples of the void phenomenon. Aaron, a 38-year-old experienced outdoorsman, became separated from his hunting party. What followed was a series of actions that experts struggled to reconcile with standard survival behavior. His gear, including his boots, was discovered neatly placed. A fire site was found on the eastern side of the range, but he had fundamentally vanished from the search area. It was not until August 2016, nearly 2 years later, that his remains were finally located near Melville, some 15 miles away from where he was last seen. The official cause of death was cited as hypothermia and exposure, yet the circumstances leading to that end remain shrouded in mystery. How does a man walk 15 miles into the wilderness, remove his own footwear in a deliberate fashion, and succumb to the elements so far from his last known position? The Crazy Mountains Void is a reminder that in extreme conditions, the line between survival and total disorientation can blur. It is a chilling account of how quickly a person can be erased, leaving behind only questions, an inexplicable trail, and a final, quiet oblivion. Sometimes, the geography of disappearance takes the form of a road. In early 2004, within the span of just 6 weeks, 2 young women vanished from rural New England roots. Their cases, separated by mere miles of darkness, have become a haunting nexus of the unknown. First, Maura Murray. On February 9th, 2004, in Haverhill, New Hampshire, her vehicle was discovered crashed on Route 112. The timeline is agonizingly tight, just an 11-minute window between her last contact and the discovery of the scene. She stepped into the night and never returned. 6 weeks later, on March 19th, 2004, the pattern repeated in Montgomery, Vermont. 17-year-old Brianna Maitland finished her shift at work around 11:20 p.m. Shortly after, her vehicle was found backed into the side of an abandoned barn on Old Winslow Road. Unlike the crash in New Hampshire, there were no witnesses to the event. These rural road voids represent a specific kind of terror, where a vehicle provides the only clue, yet offers no answers. 2 women, 2 rural routes, and 2 vehicles left abandoned. They remain 2 of the most persistent mysteries in the region, standing as a grim testament to the geography of gone. Whose lives are dedicated to the land. They are the rangers, the stewards, the guides, and the protectors. We look to them to watch over these environments, trusting that they possess a deeper knowledge of the terrain than any casual visitor. But what happens when the protectors themselves are swallowed by the very wilderness they serve? This is the Ranger Void. These are the Guardians, individuals whose expertise and familiarity with the backcountry did not spare them from the same fate as the lost tourists and hikers who came before them. Paul H. Nepomuceno, 51, lost in Olympic National Park in 1976. Randy Stevenson, 43, who disappeared from Yosemite in 1981. Tracy C. Krogstad, 38, lost in Yellowstone in 2014, and Charles Leoncude, 45, who vanished from Big Bend National Park in 1997. Their disappearances are the most haunting of all. They represent the ultimate void, a scenario where the protector becomes the protected, and the land, in its indifference, consumes its own guardians. If those who know the wild best can be taken without a trace, it forces a cold, sobering realization. In these spaces, no amount of training, equipment, or experience can fully insulate a person from the reach of the unknown.
Harrison Lake, a massive fjord-like expanse in British Columbia, is a study in contrasts. To the recreational visitor, it is a paradise of water and mountain views. But bordering this accessibility lies an unforgiving vertical wilderness, a vast coastal rainforest that is as dense as it is indifferent to human presence. This is the Valley Void. The records here highlight a grim, recurring theme. Individuals who entered this environment and were never seen again. Raymond Ray Salmon, who vanished in 2012. David L. Samsom, lost in 2019. Mark D. Lundstrom, who disappeared near the lake in 2015. And beyond these documented names, park records point to at least 10 more anonymous victims, people whose stories are lost to the landscape itself. When the massive scale of the lake meets the impenetrable wall of the rainforest, the environment becomes a vacuum. The terrain is rugged, the weather is volatile, and the sheer density of the vegetation creates a barrier that swallows all trace. In the Valley Void, the The transition from the familiar, sunny shoreline to the dark, vertical silence of the interior is often swift and final. It is a place that reminds us how easily a recreational haven can transform into a profound and permanent mystery. The desert is often described as empty, but in the Mojave, that emptiness has a weight of its own. It is a landscape that draws the curious, those seeking to find something hidden in its vast, sun-bleached expanse. Yet there is a recurring pattern here, a place where obsession meets the desert's dead center, leading to what can only be called the seeker's abyss. The case of Kenny Veach remains the most prominent example. On November 10th, 2014, while searching for a cryptic cave he had previously encountered near Sheep Mountain, Veach vanished without a trace. The only piece of physical evidence recovered was his cell phone, found abandoned near a mine. He was not the only one. The Mojave has claimed others who ventured into its silent canyons, including Daniel C. Cummings, who went missing near Searchlight in 2018, and John P. Chen, who disappeared in the New York mountains in 2015. Beyond these specific, well-known cases, regional records between 1990 and 2023 suggest a much larger shadow, with an estimated 25 or more anonymous, unsolved disappearances tied to the region. From the lure of the unknown to the harsh reality of the terrain, the land absorbs both the curious and the lost. In the Mojave, the distance between a seeker's ambition and the finality of an abyss is often shorter than anyone dares to imagine. Crater Lake is defined by its profound, deceptive stillness. Formed from a collapsed volcano, it holds the deepest water in the United States, surrounded by sheer, punishing caldera walls. It is a place of immense geological power, but for those who have vanished here, it serves as a final, soundless oblivion. The history of the caldera void spans nearly a century of silence. The records are marked by individual names that have become synonymous with the park's darker history. Charles McCullough, 44, disappeared July 25, 1927. Orville Lee Bovee, 27, disappeared August 1, 1946. Mark S. Buchner, 27, disappeared November 10, 1988. Samboa Hong, 58, disappeared May 15, 1990. Chris L. Kruger, 30, disappeared March 7, 1995. Samuel Bilka, 8, disappeared October 14, 2006. Beyond these documented cases, park records indicate at least 5 additional anonymous victims who have been claimed by this landscape. The environment here is unforgiving. The extreme depth of the water, the rapid shifts in volatile weather, and the physical barrier of the caldera walls create a perfect trap. It is a place where the landscape itself seems to participate in the erasure of those who stray too close, leaving behind only the vast, deep blue of the lake and the silence of the cliffs.
The Highway of Tears in British Columbia is a stretch of road that serves as a harrowing example of a predatory void. Here, the road itself acts as the wilderness, a conduit where the transition from being seen to being gone is often measured in mere seconds. This region has become synonymous with a pattern of disappearances that have haunted the area for decades. The historical record of this cluster includes individuals whose lives were abruptly interrupted while traversing these routes. Monica Ignaus, 15, disappeared December 13, 1974. Roberta Heidecker, 20, disappeared June 3, 1983. Tamara Chipman, 22, disappeared September 21, 2005. Madison Ado, 17, disappeared April 20, 2017. These cases represent a specific, terrifying reality where the transit infrastructure becomes a site of unexplained loss. In this predatory void, The isolation of the landscape merges with the vulnerability of those on the road, creating an environment where individuals can vanish without a trace, leaving behind only grief and a profound, enduring mystery. Waterways often act as natural boundaries, but in the case of the New England River of Tears, they serve as a chilling landscape of disappearances and unexplained loss. This is the riparian void, where cold currents and mysterious paths converge into a fluid oblivion. The evidence points to a recurring, haunting pattern across regional waters. The Smiling Cases. Between 1997 and 2017, an estimated 10 or more victims were associated with the Connecticut River. Patrick D. Pelletier, 20, vanished and was subsequently found in the Connecticut River, Massachusetts, on February 13, 2013. Jonathan L. Luna, 38, found on December 4, 2003 in a creek near the Pennsylvania/Delaware border. His case remains linked to broader New England investigations. Regional unsolved cases. Between 1980 and 2015, there have been an estimated 20 or more additional unsolved cases occurring across regional rivers. These deaths represent a grim convergence of circumstance and geography. In the riparian void, the water becomes a medium for mystery, swallowing evidence and leaving behind only a trail of questions that span decades. It is a stark reminder of how these fluid, moving environments can facilitate disappearances that defy easy explanation, drawing the lost into a depth from which they do not return.